Welcome to the Noble 23 podcast. We're recording. Welcome to
Cool.
the podcast.
Yeah,
thanks for coming up here.
Yeah.
We've hung out a couple different times, and you've helped me with a couple different things, like talking about like social media and stuff. And you got a pretty good thing going right now for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got what you said that you got the boot lifted off you the other day.
Yeah, man. So we've basically always been censored. So it's been a struggle to even show up in people's feeds.
Right.
You know, like friends of mine are like, hey, I follow you, but I never see your stuff. So
what's that term? We were trying to think of that the other day.
Like censorship?
There was like a specific term that it seemed like you got followers, you got stuff, but like you're not actually being seen.
Shadow banned.
Shadow banned. That's it.
Yeah. So shadow banned.
Yeah, I was trying to. I think it was me and Miller were talking about it, and I was like, "There's a word for it."
Yeah. So we've been shadow banned, and it was always one of those things that was like always unconfirmed. It was just like,
yeah, you can't prove it.
Yeah, you can't. Well, now you can.
Oh, okay.
Now you can, but before you couldn't prove it at all. It was like, and I would have more friends that were more I guess you could say like pro-government than I am. And they were telling me, like, you don't have any proof, blah, blah, blah. So I would make these wild claims, on in social media and stuff. Be like, hey, they're like, and they'd be like, nobody's after you, nobody's all this stuff like that. And I'd be like, I'm telling you. And I had it happened on TikTok first. I had 2.1 million followers on TikTok. Came in, I'd post a video, it'd get 0 views. That's impossible. That's statistically impossible. You can't have 2.1 million followers and nobody see your video, not even once.
Yeah.
So stuff like that was happening, and so I was showing them, like, hey, I'm posting like all this content. Well, more recently, what happened was there's been a large move from YouTube to Rumble, like so much that the YouTube engagement is like dropping on the whole platform.
Okay.
So this is a theory. I don't know this for a fact, but the theory is that they had to take the boot off of some necks to let the engagement get back up, because when your product is engagement, that's YouTube's product.
Right.
Is engagement. That's when at the end of the day they have to go to their advertisers and say, this is how much engagement we have, and this is what you're getting by spending money with us.
Exactly.
Whenever you start looking bad at the advertisers, you got to undo it. So it's not just me. It was a bunch of my other GunTuber friends that all of a sudden just saw massive skyrockets. And this all happened with a lot of the drama that was going on with like Steven Crowder. There's people that are signing, like Russell Brand signed exclusive deals with Rumble. And I think it just took such a hit that they just had to do it. So I had one video of us at the Iraq Veteran 88 Range Day, just dumping belt-fed machine gun.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one. That was cool.
Yeah, like 12 million views in like a couple weeks, and I jumped from like 4,000 subscribers to like 42,000 on YouTube.
That's insane.
Yeah, it just started like blowing up, and then not only that, all my other videos, like videos that I posted 6 months ago that had like 100 views, 200 views, 12,000 views.
Now
like
people are
like that. Yeah,
going through the catalog.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So it's a game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What should we call it? Yeah, I saw you posted the or reshared your bug out thing the other day.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one back in the day. It was a cool video.
It was one of our first videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have like a plan in mind for that, or was that kind of like an introduction to like Dire Armory?
Kind of. That was more like kind of messing around. So, well, I guess for the viewers, we should probably say what Dire Armory is. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I run a gun company that is turning into a conglomerate company. So the goal was me building AR-15s in my garage, doing that for other people in a customizable way. That turned into the idea of running a gun store like Build-A-Bear. I want people to be able to walk in and pick parts that they want and assemble them. So we got a manufacturer now, and there'll be Dire Armory branded AR-15s in the market. But we're not really reinventing the wheel with anything in the AR-15 market. What we're reinventing is the business model of getting out of walking into a gun store that's got like some old FUD trying to convince you to buy a 1911 because it won 2 world wars, and get into something more trendy, something more.
I mean, you can't just like shit on a 1911 like that. I mean,
Dude, the
solid...
2011s are coming up, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's FUD lore. You know, it is what it is, and it's. I want to bring in a more like the next generation shooters are the gamers. They like customization. They like the cool looks. And we're in a battle right now of how does it look cool, but is it like also functional?
Right.
You know. And I care more about functionality and getting training behind it. I like something that looks cool, and then you just start beating it up, and it just looks beaten up, and you're like, oh, that's the look I like.
Yeah. So are you a big fan of like the spray can look, or actually like getting like a ceramic coat, or? I
do like Cerakote.
Okay.
So you typically like most of my guns are Cerakoted like a solid color, except for my main battle rifle, which is an SLR Rifleworks AR-15, like 11.5 inch suppressed. That's been my go-to. I probably have near 10,000 rounds in it at this point.
Nice. Okay.
Probably need a barrel change soon. But anyways, the storefront is for people that they want to come in and they're like, I like that color, I like this, I like that, I want this barrel length, this caliber, and we'll assemble it for you right there.
So you're talking about an actual like in-person store?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And the idea originally was to do an app where you could do it digitally and then purchase it and it would be sent to you. And that was like groundbreaking idea for me at the time, and I never moved on it. And now it's kind of, there's some people doing it.
Okay.
Like, dang, I should have done it.
Cool.
But yeah, so that's kind of what Die Armory was meant to be. Then enters my my buddy Bobby. He's the #1 cinematographer in Atlanta for weddings. He's like, was in People's Choice magazine. He's like a big deal in the at least the wedding industry, but also worked on movies and stuff. He's incredibly talented behind a camera. He's like, it's pretty mind blowing.
I mean, you could see it in like the videos you guys post. Like the quality level is top notch.
Yeah, and it's not just nice equipment. Like people equate like there is talent behind. What he does.
I've seen the videos of like amateur with a pro level camera, and then like pro with an amateur, and like the pro still beats. With the crappy camera.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Your guys' stuff is well done for
thanks.
sure.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so he came in and he was big in the weddings were his bread and butter. That's like where he made all his money. Then he also did commercials and things like that. But anybody that gets into cinematography doesn't want to just do weddings. That's just like this. That's like the step in.
Yeah,
you get a lot of experience. You learn to really work your equipment. You get a lot of time editing, and you can make money because weddings are always in business.
Right.
Commercials and stuff you got to fight to get into. So we were like, COVID hit, all the weddings shut down, and he was like, "Well, I'm not doing anything. Let's like do something. Let's like hang out and start filming some stuff." So I brought some guns over. We did one video with the Vector, Chris Vector. You know what I'm talking about, that gun? So I had one of those, and
I wanted one for so long.
Yeah.
They're cool looking.
They're cool looking, but I actually ended up selling mine. They're a little impractical for what you're getting, but so we had 2 of them. So they were like, let's film something cool for Chris Vector, and we did it. We put their logo on it and everything because we were just messing around in the garage. We had like fire going. It was like in the fire and stuff like that. And Chris loved it and reshared it, and it got like all these views. And we're like, oh, this is really cool. Like we could do something with this.
Okay.
So we did that. We filmed. I can't remember. I don't think we filmed anything else after that. I think we went straight to Bug Out, which if viewers,
I actually just watched it again last night.
Yeah. Like if anybody watching this goes to YouTube, go look at Die Armory and you can see Bug Out, or type in Bug Out, Die Armory Bug Out, and you'll see it's just like a quick, like 2-minute short film.
Yeah.
About if COVID got really, really bad and you had to like bug out or like get in the woods or whatever. And it's mostly about the restoration of my dad's 1978 Marlin 336 chambered in 35 Remington. So in the video, I did all the work on it, and we just like kind of montaged it into like a cool thing. And by the end of the video, it's just like this awesome tactical lever action.
Did you mean like? Did you have that idea like to restore the lever action before the idea of the video?
Yes.
Okay.
So the video
So
was
you
built
already knew.
around.
Okay.
Yeah.
You already knew you wanted to do that.
Yes, and that's why we introed it in the first scene is me looking at it, and I'm looking at the stock was messed up because I had a sticker on it because it was actually in police evidence for a while. That gun was.
Okay.
So yeah, my uncle decided to go hunting with it illegally, and he wasn't even supposed to have a gun. And got caught with it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, these tactical lever actions are.
Oh, man,
I love how they're starting to come a little bit more mainstream. They're so
Yep.
cool looking.
Yeah, and we'll have a bunch of content coming out with Henry rifles on those. So they have their Model X's, and they come like threaded, black synthetic. Most of them. Some of them have a really cool like nickel plating on the main frame of the gun.
Right.
But yeah, all black synthetic with threaded suppressors. I was posting some videos with Pat RMG. Who's a rep for Henry.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so we've got 2 or 3 of those coming, and we'll be filming a lot with those.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dude, I love lever actions.
Yeah.
They're just so like iconically American.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, does anybody else have one?
Well, it kind of started with Midwest Industries making the tactical rail.
Oh no, sorry, not like lever actions in general. Like that is like
Henry,
iconically American though. Like
Henry is. I think they're the oldest. I think they're one of the oldest gun companies in America.
I do believe.
I think so.
I don't think that like lever actions exist outside of states.
There's a huge market for them in Australia.
Okay.
One of the optics companies I work with, Zerotech Optics, they are big into hunting in Australia and boar hunting and stuff like that, and they're big lever guys out there.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as like the invention of them, I mean, I'm not a historical gun guy at all. So
I'm not either.
I'm like more of a modern tactical type shooter, but yeah, as far as I know, I can't think of any foreign gun makers.
That's old. Like Australia's probably bringing it out like in like the new age, like the more modern age, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's Marlin and Henry are like.
There's another one I can't remember.
There's POF, but they do weird stuff. They do like magazine fed 9mm. They just released their magazine fed 9mm, and it started flying off the shelves so much that Henry actually made. Well, I don't want to claim that they did it because of them, because I don't know.
Right.
But Henry just released their 9mm lever action Glock magazine fed lever action. It's called the Homesteader.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But I think I derailed that. Sorry.
No.
Going back to what Armory was supposed to be. So my camera guy, we did that. We filmed Bug Out. And Bobby, my camera guy, was like, and me and him we're always talking about ideas, and we're like, why don't we do what I do already for cinematography and just do it for gun people? And whenever you go on YouTube, none of the gun guys really have really high quality stuff. It's all cell phone or
Some of them
they're getting there.
Yeah, they're getting there.
But not when we started.
Okay.
Not like really pre-COVID, you know? Garen Thumb didn't even start doing his epic intros until
he got Micah.
Yeah, which was around the time when we started.
Yeah.
And I always feel like Micah was watching Armory, because 2 weeks before Garrett Thumb started wearing the Pit Vipers, like I was wearing the Pit Vipers, but that was like a firefighter thing. Like we were all wearing Pit Vipers, you know, in the fire stations and stuff.
Everybody had them.
And I was like, well, I'm gonna bring this into the gun world, you know, whatever. Not realizing whatever. Like literally 2 weeks later, not because of me. That's not what I'm saying, but it was pretty.
The coincidence,
it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And it was like we would always talk about an idea, and then Garand Thumb would do it, and we would like, you know. But as far as doing like the epic filming,
he's really stepped up his game.
Oh yeah, but he's also I don't know if I can claim he's part of Leviathan anymore, but I think he's with Leviathan Group still.
I don't know what that is.
Leviathan Group is like a marketing company strictly for guns.
Okay.
They charge a lot of money. It's like $200K a year if you want to use them. But they'll handle your social media. They'll handle like all that stuff. And I hate to even plug them. They've gotten under some fire recently with just their shady business practices.
Never even heard of them.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the goal, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we filmed some stuff for huge companies, and those videos got millions of views, and nobody knows our name. But that's the whole point of being a media company is like, do you want the reach or do you want money?
Right.
And we opted for the money. But yeah, it was a long learning process of how to get into that industry, and we quickly realized like it's not like any other industry. It's not like other industries where you're just like, hey, I have a video production service, and companies reach out to you and they're like, hey, like we need good video. It's like the people in the gun community are so tight knit. There's like these weird little cliques. There's like all these companies and they all work together. And then over here, there's all these other companies and they all work together.
Right.
Like if you want Beretta, got Beretta, you've got Steiner Optics. You're not going to go to like a Beretta and see Trijicon. Like it's all a family. So if you can get in with that one family, you can branch out into like 10 other brands.
Okay.
It's very weird. It's like, and it's there's people that like control different things. Like there was this guy I met at a range day, and he's into
the Atlanta range day.
No, this was where was this? This was a private range day.
Okay.
This was in Missouri for CMMG. So CMMG, they built a private range. So they were going to SHOT Show every year. I don't know if anybody knows, but if you go to SHOT Show and have like a high-end booth, you're going to spend $500,000. Yeah, it's $300 just for the footprint of your booth. You're going to spend $300K just for that spot.
Holy crap!
Yeah, and then you're going to spend another $200K to do the booth, to build the booth, and then a lot of them will hire an influencer to sit in the booth. So people like if people know like Hannah Barron, she's like rolls with a lot of the Black Rifle. You know who that is? Yeah. She doesn't have giant catfish on her shoulder when she's at the booth, but she was at, I think, Primary Arms. So she sits in that booth and people come talk to her. So they're going to pay for that too.
Right.
They're going to pay for everybody's flights out there. It's a $500,000 or more expense. So CMMG decided we're going to build our own range for that much money, and we'll just fly influencers out here, and they can stay at the lodge and they can shoot on this private range, and we don't have to ship guns and we don't have to do anything.
Nice.
So they opened the grand opening of the range. We went out there, and they invited like probably 30 influencers. There was like 2 buses of just Guns and Gadgets was there, Pew Pew Daily, just a bunch of industry influencers, and we like filmed that. That's where I met this one guy. He runs a marketing company. And I was like, cool, we met him. He runs, he works with Recoil Magazine. He works with everybody, it seems like. So I got home or whatever, and now I'm starting to do my due diligence and reach out to some companies and try to sell our services to them. And almost every single one of them was like, yeah, that sounds great. Reach out to this guy. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that sounds great. Reach out to this guy. And it's the same guy. I'm like, this guy is got his hand in everything.
Huh.
So it's really weird. You have to fight to get in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit? You saw the thing with the ATF pistol brace, right?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, like, if you're into guns, like, you know about it.
Yeah.
Well, like, what was your thoughts on that, like, when that came out?
My thoughts on it were, at first I was like, again, this is like the 10th time. But then it got real serious, because what had happened before was, hey, we're going to ban these pistol braces or whatever. And it was like they would try to do it and it would always get shut down. And nobody could really do anything with it. And so that's what I kind of thought it was. But then, like, about the time where I was like, okay, this isn't going to last, there was a massive push of like propaganda from mainstream media about it. Excuse me. There was one of the shooters. Oh, and he had a AR-15 equipped with one of these pistol braces, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, what's that?" And when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, wait a second.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this is something different." Because when you've got CNN talking about pistol braces, that's a lot different than. But the previous like 10 times they've tried to do this, nobody knew about it. Now it's like in the mainstream spotlight. Now SB Tactical is like fighting it legally. Now all these other companies are banding in, and Frack was like one of the big ones, like leading the fight against it. I was like, okay, there's like people pushing this now. So my first thought was, well, I'm just not going to comply with it. Doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's a felony. That's up to 10 years in prison.
For an unconstitutional.
Not even law.
Yeah,
it's a rule.
It's a ruling that.
Yeah, you're not even breaking a law. They're just saying, hey, this now falls under this.
Right.
And it doesn't. It just doesn't. So my first thought was, I'm just not going to comply, and I've got a pretty strong court case with the right lawyer. If you're part of like Gun Owners of America or some type of Pro 2A concealed carry insurance or something like that. You can also probably talk with your rep about that if you've got some kind of concealed carry insurance. But that was my first thought, and then I started kind of thinking about it, and I just started poking holes in it, in the argument altogether, and I just got more and more confident in it. Like, not only can they not make this ruling, they can't enforce it. You just can't enforce it. And then even if you could enforce it, you wouldn't know who has them because they're not registered.
See, that was where I was kind of getting at, was like, do you think it was just a way to like create a backdoor registry?
Yes. 100%. Because a bunch of people panicked.
You're like, oh my God.
And went and
now they got,
yeah.
Well, we're waiving the fee so that way you don't have to pay for it. But now we got this registry.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that was it's probably not the primary reason they did it. I'm not going to. I don't think so. I don't think it was like, hey, let's do this so we can create a backdoor registry. I think that was a bonus. I think honestly, politicians hate the Second Amendment, and I think they want to do anything they can. First of all, to make money. That's $200 a pop for everybody that's got. And I honestly couldn't even afford to SBR every gun that I have, because I mean, like,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I did the math, and it was like $14,000 I'd have to pay in taxes.
Did you ever look at that? What was it? T-Rex Arms did a video with his brother Luke.
I forget his brother's name, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he did one, and he like fully explained like the history behind like the silencers and the NFA Act. And it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, it's like the 200 is like such an arbitrary number to begin with. The cost of an old Tommy gun back in the day.
Yeah.
And now, since the inflation, that $200 is not as much as it was before, but still, it's like they just tacked on these extra things. It's like, oh, short barrel rifles, shot-off shotguns, suppressors. It's like,
well, so what they were doing was attacking the culture of the gangsters.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, hey, vertical foregrips are super dangerous. It was like the iconic, Italian dude with the fedora with dumping a full auto Tommy gun, and it was like that was in all the movies, all the Kevin Costner movies, and all the, well, Kevin Costner movies portraying, at the time what was going on. And so when the politicians came out and they were like, we need to do something to stop this, well, what do? Well, we can't ban Tommy guns, but we can ban vert grips. We can ban short barreled rifles, silencers were an afterthought.
Yeah.
That wasn't even like, a lot of people didn't even know like that technology was, I think they knew it existed, but it was so not like prevalent like it is today.
Right.
So after they banned all the features of the Tommy gun, they were like, oh yeah, and silencers. Also silencers as well. And they were like, oh, I don't know what that is, but okay, it must be dangerous. And here we are, 100 years later. It's like,
just ridiculous.
And that's what they're doing today.
Yep.
It's like
now they're just throwing on the pistol brace. I saw something the other day. They were talking about the Supreme Court ruled ruled in favor of like not banning the bump stocks.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make it a machine gun.
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, you also had the politician claiming that the brace made it a machine gun. And it's like you don't know what
they don't know what they're talking about.
Luckily, I would love to I wish I could remember which representative called him out on it. I wish I could remember because I'd love to name drop him. But it was definitely a red Pro 2A state. It was like, wait, he stopped him. It was like, wait a second. Everything you just said is wrong. That doesn't make it a machine gun. And the guy was like, like, he You think like, and I think that's a problem with a lot of like the politicians today is there's no repercussions for being wrong.
Right.
You know, it's like they can just say whatever they want, and there's no backlash, there's no nothing. And now we have some people that are like, hey, actually explain that, and then they're like, they can't, and then they just panic and call you racist and move on.
Well, I've explained it in the past in detail. I don't feel like I have to further explain myself today. And they're like, well,
no,
yes, you do.
This is the hearing for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. It's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
like they don't even know, like they're making up their own terms or they're using terms incorrectly.
Yeah.
Like
They don't know, and it's there used to be, I'd say 5 to 10 years ago, there used to be a lot of conversations happening that were trying to educate, and I think people like me have kind of caught on that there is no education.
well, I think that's one good thing that like Garantham has said multiple times is like he did like a podcast with Travis Haley, and he was talking about like his goal was really just to like educate like this next generation.
Yeah.
And a lot of his videos are silly and
Yeah.
humorous and everything, and like the whole science stuff. Like, yeah, they're great, but then every once in a while he does like provide like a really serious topic, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think he's probably like one of my favorite ones to watch. Him and like Admin and dude, they do great stuff.
Yeah.
And they're educating.
Yeah, and by education too, I don't necessarily mean just like the American public. I mean education of the politicians. So what I'm saying is like there is no education, meaning they don't want to be educated. That's not their goal. They're not producing these things, these laws, asking questions about, well, how does this affect the functionality of this? You know, how does a suppressor make a gun more deadly? You know, or whatever. Like nobody's even if it's a dumb question, nobody's asking it.
Right.
And there's people like me that are just a lot of people like me that are talking kind of behind closed doors, and it's just the severed. The tie has been severed already. There used to be like this fight for the middle ground, and like, can we compromise and have an educated discussion? And that's gone now.
Sadly,
it's gone. And it's largely due to social media. It's largely due to like the outrage culture that's prevalent on social media, and it's just it's severed the tie of communication between people, and now you have a bunch of anti-gun people that don't even know why they're anti-gun. They're just following what these politicians that don't know what they're talking about.
Well, it's not even just anti-gun. It's just they're anti-this.
Everything.
And this is why we're mad, because we're told by these people. And then I love watching those videos of like, well, hey, let's talk for a second. And they're like, oh, wow, we're actually more aligned than we thought we were.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't even know.
And it's so true, but it's just crazy to me. And the crazy part is like a lot of the gun control advocates, they know that that the American public is uneducated. Like they know that. And so what they're doing is, you know, I like to subscribe to the belief that there's only two options for those politicians. Either they're ignorant or they're willfully lying to people, like maliciously.
Right.
So are you ignorant or are you being malicious? I can't think of a third option, right?
I think it's the malicious.
Yeah.
There's
so
an
what?
agenda.
And what they do is they take people and they say, "Hey, vote for me. We're gonna clean up these guns that are shooting up all our schools and stuff." And people, the American public that's uneducated towards it, they don't really care about guns. They may not even own a gun. They're just like, okay, and they throw their vote behind them, and then the gun control advocates in Washington are like, got him. Let's go.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the fight that we've had, and I think we've spent a lot of time trying to find that middle ground and trying to educate people, and we're just getting so far along in this brace ruling. Did a lot of people in, including me, where it's just like, okay, we're done here. I'm just not going to comply.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. Are you going to start when are we going to start seeing the government kick open doors and confiscate? You know,
with their IRS agents.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, every aspect of any department in the United States government is being weaponized against political opponents,
against the people.
Yeah. And so there's a bunch of people, and I'm not going to name any names, but there's a bunch of people that are just like, I'm done. I'm done like trying to play the nice guy. I'm done trying to have the conversation, and we're just going to keep creating our content, and if they ban us, we'll go to Rumble, and we're going to keep continuing to educate people. Armed Scholar is a really good person
I
to
love
follow.
watching his stuff.
Yeah.
He does a really good job of like just
Yeah.
keeping up to date. He's always got stuff like pretty regularly.
Yeah.
I want to say
He follows like small elections in like individual states. He's like, hey, this one county in this one state is saying this is dangerous. You know,
he got me on clickbait on something, and it was like specifically about Washington State, and I was like,
yeah,
damn it.
Gotcha.
But I still watched the whole thing. I was like, ugh,
yeah,
poor Washington.
Yeah. Yeah. Washington's crazy place right now. They're advocating that if a parent that a child seeking gender reaffirming care can be legally taken away from their parents without their parents' knowledge. Like if a child goes to a shelter and says, "Hey, I'm here because I need gender reaffirming care," the state is not required to let the parents know where that child is. That's where we're at.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just getting
mom and dad are just like freaking out.
Yeah,
not knowing where, and the state's purposely.
They could think their kid is lost, and the state has no requirement to reach out to the parents and say, "This is where your minor child is."
This has happened.
This is
or they're working on that.
No. This is
like that's
done
law now.
in Washington State.
God, fuck what?
Isn't that crazy? So we're at the point now where it's like, how long do you play the nice guy when somebody shows up to take your kid? Like, where's the line of? I mean, the line's back there, right?
That's the problem too. It's like there's no more, like seeing the middle ground anymore. There's no moderates anymore. It's like we've just all been pushed to these sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to somebody the other day about it, and I was like, I lean more towards the right, but there are certain things that I still very much lean left. It's like I do feel like a strong federal government is needed for certain things to protect human rights, protect nature.
Yeah.
These forests.
That's what got me.
But it's like if you want to go right, like you got to be against that, and I'm like, no. Like, I like. They did something the other day. Like they're talking about opening up oil in a certain area in Alaska. But I remember seeing like this documentary about it a year ago, and they were saying that like this specific area is like such an important migration path for, it was like elk or caribou, and that is super important to like these specific people who live up there, like actual natives.
Yeah.
I don't want to like misclassify them, but I want to say it was like the Inuit type people.
Inuit, yeah.
But like now that's they're pushing to like open that back up, and I'm like, I get like cheaper gas, and like a strong country, but at the same time like destroying, I mean these like old areas of like old forests and like that are super important to like migration paths, and I'm like, oh man, like you gotta find the balance, but some people are just like, nope.
Steve Rinella changed my mind on that stuff.
Dude, he's another great one.
I was pretty libertarian, and then the libertarian movement kind of started moving more anarchist, almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, I don't like that, and but I did see like almost slash all the federal budgets for like everything. But then when Steve Rinella came and he's talking about the history of like commercial hunting, and I think we had like 40 buffalo at one point.
I mean,
like 40 left.
Yeah,
that's it.
I mean, you like look at the old photos, and it's like piles of skeletons. And
like the boneyards.
Yeah. We just like hunted them to almost extinction.
Almost extinction. So I do see the importance of...
You need a strong federal government in some regards, but only strong enough to manage certain things. I think now it's like we've gone like our overreach is just ridiculous.
Crazy. It's crazy. And it's like, you know, and that's the thing is like we don't have the... anybody that's even right-leaning doesn't have the... You're not going to get the grace that somebody on the left is going to get. And we see this over and over and over again. We've had people from January 6th Which, don't get me wrong, stupid. Don't go bash through federal buildings, windows, and stuff like that. Just don't do that stuff.
Yeah.
Some of it was set up. A lot of it was like a few people that were following the lead of some undercover federal agents, like Ray Epps and people like that.
Yeah, I heard about that.
But at the same time, they were imprisoned for 2 years without a trial because they were labeled terrorists. Like, oh, we don't have to give these guys a trial for 2 years. And some of them are still there. But then you have people right now, today in Chicago. Have you seen what's going on in Chicago today?
Nope.
They're just they're imploding the whole entire city. They're burning everything. All the Walmart stores shut down and Target stores shut down. They're moving out of Chicago completely. They won't have any Chicago.
Okay, so that's kind of similar to what's going on in France then.
Yeah, similar, I guess.
Okay.
But they're just riding like crazy. But then the mayor came out and was like, well, we're not going to be pressing charge against these people. They're just angry. They're just misheard and they're whatever. So there's like this unequal enforcement of the law, and it's whenever it benefits them, it's far more severe. You have a larger, like a burden of proof if you're on a right-wing person or a pro-gun person.
Yeah.
If you even shoot in self-defense. I think a lot of people saw this with Kyle Rittenhouse. I know some friends that were on the left that saw what was going on with Kyle Rittenhouse and almost abandoned the party. We're like, this is wrong.
You've had plenty of people that have like abandoned, like very popular people.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
And then Candace Owens.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
That they're like, yeah, we were on the left, and like now we're not.
Yeah.
So like kind of go back to like Bug Out and everything, like the video. Yeah. So like my big thing like right now that like I worry about is something happens here. So like whatever it be, like whether it be like social unrest or whatever, whatever. Like not trying to go like too deep down the whole conspiracy theory. Like my thought is not necessarily bug out, but like bug back.
Yeah.
So like what's your whole thoughts on that? Is like are you more of the mindset of like abandon your house and like get into the woods and do that kind of thing, or are you like, okay, wherever I'm at, my goal is to get back home?
It's so situational. Cause we have a cabin that's kind of off the beaten path. You're not going to find it on Google. And it just depends. Like where you're at, you should be good. Like,
hopefully
you're set up in a great, I think, spot. Where I'm at is, I'm a little north, right outside the city of Atlanta. It's if I drive up 15 minutes up the road, I can see the skyline of Atlanta. I'm not in a good spot. So first off, if I have to abandon my house, somebody's gonna have the best loot day of their life because I can't take everything with me.
Yeah.
But I think during COVID, I did think about it. Remember when COVID happened, there was like, our station ran a stabbing over toilet paper. Are
you serious?
Yeah. Last roll of toilet paper. 2 guys won it. Of all
like, quick sidetrack, like of all things, like how did toilet paper like really like?
But that's all it takes to get society to turn on each other. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't take much, and I've lost my faith in. I'm still talking about the bug out stuff, so I'm not derailing here.
No.
I'm going to provide some back context here. I had my first experience with how depraved society will become and how quickly it will become, during the gas shortage. Remember when during the Obama era gas shortage? So,
lines just down the road.
I can't remember how old I was. Maybe I was 16 or 17. I can't remember. But my dad would be like, hey, like I would wake up super early for my dad to go get my parents' vehicles, and we would go like wait in line. So like my dad would be here, I would be here, and we'd be going to try to fill up our vehicles, and we were backed up on 41. So we finally make it to the thing, and at that point, they hadn't implemented gallon caps yet. Do you remember that? Do you remember there was a cap?
Yeah, you ended up only getting like
5 or 6 gallons a person. They would pump would shut off. So what happened was, right before that, it was like it would line up and the gas station would just run out of gas. We show up and it's my turn. It's not my turn yet. I'm like behind the guy of the pump. And to my left, this guy pulls up in this massive pickup truck with a trailer, with lawnmower, with gas cans and everything. And he's just going. He's unloading it. And the guy behind him that was waiting on him starts yelling at him. And he's like, "You're taking all the gas, blah, 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 blah." It's whatever. They get into a fight. They get into a fist fight. They start punching each other, throwing each other. And I was like, in my head as like a teenager, I'm like, this is all it takes.
Yeah.
And that guy's probably not a bad guy. He's got a lawn business to run. Like,
he's just worried about his family.
Yeah.
The other guy's worried about like getting to work to provide for his family. Yeah.
There aren't, it's not even like, oh, there's these bad guys that are going to come after you.
It's not good and evil.
It's desperation versus desperation. And it's like,
absolutely.
You know, if it's your kid versus somebody else's kid, who are you going to choose? You're going to do the right thing and give your food away while your kid's screaming and starving? It's going to be the guy in the pickup truck saying, "Hey, I know you're hungry. I'm going to go get some food for you." And then it's the guy sitting there with his kid and being like, "Hey, these guys are coming for your food. Daddy's got to go protect you." That's what it is. And I noticed that during the gas shortage. Then I noticed it again this is a very small scale, but do you remember the Atlanta blackout at Hartsfield Airport? This was 5 or 6 years ago.
Not really.
The whole airport went dark.
Okay.
And we had planes going in a circle pattern above, couldn't land. There was no visual for like ground control or whatever. There was a massive explosion. So I was there. I was.
Is this while you were at like Atlanta Fire?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we were caring for a patient. It was like a tummy ache patient, whatever. And we hear like an explosion, and the lights go out, and everybody immediately is like, terrorists. You know, like
it's going down.
How can you not be in an airport and everything go black and you hear an explosion and not think, you know, something crazy? So then the backup generator kicks on, like dark for a second. Everybody's like, what just happened? And it kicks back on, and then it goes off again. And then it just stays dark. And I was like, then you start seeing cops running up the hallways, and I'm sitting here with like a sick patient, like, what do we do? You know, like, what are we going to do? So they're like, finally they come over the radio. They're like, "Hey, we need everybody at this spot." And I was like, we were all like, it's going down. This is like something big is happening. We go, we get in gear. They find like a tunnel way down. Like, people probably don't know this, but okay, probably shouldn't actually say it. But I might give away some national security stuff or something. I don't know. But there's like these crazy unknown areas of like airports or whatever. But it's basically maintenance tunnels that go way, way, way down. And there's like lines of power cables, huge power cables that probably, I don't know what they power apparently everything. Well, I guess one got overloaded. We don't know how or whatever, but it went to the backup and it overloaded that and went to the other backup and went to the last one, and that's what blew.
Oh, okay.
And it blew. There's a solid to protect against that. There's a solid, like, I don't know, concrete wall that's like super thick. It blew a hole in that wall probably 2 feet deep. Like, that's how powerful that explosion was.
Damn.
And so they came to us and they said, you know, "Hey, you guys got to go put that out." We're looking down a long, narrow hallway. It looks like a little bitty fire, but it was a big fire super far down. And then fire obviously eats oxygen. There's not a lot of ventilation down there. So they're like, "We need confined space teams and we need air hoses for you to get down there." So we waited and waited and waited. And then they're like, "No confined space teams can come. Like, you're up, you're going in." It's like, well, okay. Then, air hoses don't reach. You need to take like a cart with like a bunch of cylinders. So we're in like a hot bottle swap situation. Well, not really. We had a pack, so we could like, you could change it on the pack while you're breathing and then, you know,
right.
hook up. But anyways, the depravity of people was mind-blowing. In a civilized area, there were people fighting over bags of chips because their kids were hungry. Literally grown men fist fighting over bags of chips. People started raiding the bars because the police thought it was terrorism and all the shop owners, everybody that worked there, just left. They were like, "Nope, I'm not sticking around." I would do it. Like imagine you're working a restaurant. You're at Chili's at Hartsfield.
I'm not
Jackson.
dealing with this shit for $15 an hour.
No, you're out.
Yeah.
The lights are out. Nobody's coming in restaurants. People are fighting. I'm out. That's what happened. Everybody left.
Yep. Sick day.
Sick day. Whatever. Dock me a sick day. I don't care. They all left. People started raiding the bars, grabbing like liquor bottles and stuff out of the bars. It was like chaos. I was like, it has been 2 hours. And so, Chick-fil-A brought 15,000 sandwiches, right? So Chick-fil-A starts rolling up in this fleet of vans. They hear what's going on. They start piling these sandwiches up, right? So the police are gone. There's no police. There's no anybody except fire on there at all. And they're like, we're just going to stick around and maybe people need help, maybe whatever. Maybe we can offer some guidance. I don't know what we're doing. They brought in a bunch of engines, and they said, hey, let's hand out these sandwiches to people. This is like a good thing, right? Dude. We're like, hey, let's form a line. Come up, grab a sandwich. Thanks, Chick-fil-A, for bringing this out for you guys, blah, blah, blah. So they're in line, and we're just handing out, yeah, here you go. Oh, hey, kid, want to wear my helmet? Like this guy that doesn't speak any English. He just like walks up, and he's like looking at us, and I was like, oh, hey, let's get in line for eat a sandwich. And you could just tell he had no idea what I was saying. He's a Middle Eastern or something. He had a family. And he's like, he says something and just kind of grabs one. And I can tell he may be saying thank you or something. But I was trying to explain to him, you got to go to the back of the line. And then some dude that was just some like angry redneck dude was like, hey, if he could cut in line, I'm not waiting in line. And he's like, cuts in line, goes all the way front, grabs like 3 boxes of sandwiches. Then somebody yells at him, hey, you can't take that much, blah, blah, blah. And it just, dude, it was a mad rush towards the food. We just backed up, and then they were trampling over sandwiches. Just like, I was like,
good grief.
This is all it takes.
Yeah, and it's like, for the most part, most of those people, like, what time of day did this happen?
This happened at 10 a.m. and we got relieved there from the next shift.
Oh my God.
So 10 a.m. to...
It's like people freak out and like they've never...
You're not starving yet.
Yeah.
Like there's no way you're that hungry.
Exactly. Like, oh my God, I skipped a meal, and then like they freak out. It's
Yeah.
not like 3 days in where you're like, I'm getting really hungry.
Yeah. So my thought process is changed a lot behind bugging out, bugging in. This was all leading back to this. I think people have this idea that when it goes down, it's going to be a slow degradation of society. Like, well, first people will run out of food in their homes. Then they're going to go to the grocery stores, and the grocery stores are going to run out of foods. Then they're going to go into the woods and start hunting deer, and then they're going to hunt all the deer out. And then they'll be shooting each other over half-eaten deer carcasses, or whatever it is. It's going to be so much faster than that. It is going to be, my pantry is stocked. I have food. I've got cans of beans I could eat. But I went to the store and couldn't find a roll of toilet paper, and I need to kill somebody over it. That's how fast it's going to be. And I think we got a taste of it during COVID, just with gun sales.
Yeah.
You could not get a gun immediately. You didn't have time. By the time you heard about it, the lines were already out the door.
Which is like interesting because it's like you hear the stories like Rogan talks about like his friends trying to go get a gun in California, and they're like, I gotta wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it's not gonna be there.
And it's like, when you need it, you need it. You can't just go to the store and buy one. And like, luckily Georgia, like, you can go and you can get it the same day.
Yeah.
So,
well, not during COVID though. So what happened to me was I have a family member, I'll say, that is very on the left. And is very, I don't want to say she's like anti-gun, but she's pretty anti-gun. And if not for just political reasons even. Like, so they were always like, we had been shooting a couple times, and like just on family land or whatever, anybody's hanging out, we're just like, popping soda cans or whatever, and I'm like, oh, you want to try it? Like, no no, are you crazy? Like that kind of mentality. I was like, okay. Well, they live in a city, and they live like in the city, and because they like to just walk out their front door and be at a restaurant or a brewery like immediately. So that's the life they want to live. So it's cool. During COVID, remember when Black Lives Matter was rioting during COVID?
Oh yeah.
So
I
that
mean, there was
happened.
one in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some ones like closer to here that I was like, oh.
Well, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because that's where they live. They didn't live in, when I say they live in the city, they lived in a city, not at downtown Atlanta. Well, their condo, they've got a nice condo. It's like a super nice condo. And the stairs go right to the sidewalk. So, and then they've got all these big bay windows in their front. So they're watching it all from their living room, like making eye contact with protesters. And we're very lucky. Like the ones that you're talking about that were near here were peaceful, luckily. Yeah. But they got nervous because people were tired. They would sit on their steps to take a break and drink some water. They were people leaning against the front glass of their living room, like with their backs pressed against the glass, like talking, hanging out.
Are they on ground floor?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it's 4 stories. They have an elevator in there. It's a nice condo.
But they were on the ground floor?
Yeah.
Ugh.
So they're watching it.
Jeez.
But even if you go up, all it takes is that window to shatter.
Yeah.
And they're in. And so she calls me and she's like, hey, very awkwardly and ashamedly asks, is there any way that you could procure us a gun if we felt the need for it? And I was like, I mean, not really, because right now you can't get a gun. But second off, like, one of the big things that the gun control party advocates for is like the straw purchases or like ghost guns or whatever they want to call it. So what you're asking me to do is like illegal.
Yeah.
You know?
Plus, I've offered multiple times for you to like, hey, let's just shoot some cans.
Yeah.
And you have no practice whatsoever. I'm not going to just give
you a gun
to a completely uneducated person.
Yeah.
I won't name them, but like, dude, we've gone shooting a couple times and with this one friend, and we were actually at the gun store one time, and he's like, you know how when you're like, hey, I'd like to see that pistol, and the clerk behind the counter is like, all right, takes the magazine out, racks it, it's like, all right, it's empty, and like shows it. Well, he's like pointing at us. We know it's empty, but still, it's like that concept of like, stop pointing at us.
Yeah, gonna Alec Baldwin somebody.
And he's like, oh, it's yeah, Alec Baldwin. It's like some people like they just like it doesn't click in their head like. It's like these safety things are here for a reason. It's like, yeah, maybe some of us haven't gone through like formal education, like we haven't paid for a class.
Yeah, but
some of those things have been instilled by like grandfathers and fathers or even mothers, whatever.
Yeah.
But like he was obviously not of like his family is more artsy science.
Yeah.
So he just didn't get that raising up when he was a kid. So for us, it was just like, good God.
Yeah, it's so cringy.
Like, stop.
Yeah, and those people think you're the danger.
Yeah.
You know, well, I mean, not your guy specifically, but what I'm saying is like people like my family member, like, oh, it's the crazy right-wing gun owner people that are dangerous. Like, those people are not dangerous. You had 10 in Virginia fighting the gun control legislation probably 6 years ago. 10,000 people showed up, and the government literally had to shut down, and the bill ended up not going through because 10,000 heavily armed people showed up. And the city said that the protesters left it cleaner than they found it. And they're shaking hands with cops, and then CNN tried to run something that it was a bunch of white supremacists, and Black Guns Matter guy was there. He's like, no, it wasn't. We were all out there. Like, you know, like, and what ended up happening was I actually did end up buying. So this is what happened. I called Adventure Outdoors, and they said, we're out of guns completely. We got 2 Blue Label Glocks left, and we're firefighters. So I was like, cool, Blue Label. I'm on my way. So what ended up happening was she was like, look, this is what we're going to do. We'll buy the gun for you. Like, we're going to keep it until the mess kind of settles down. Hold on to it. And then we're going to give it back to you. You're just letting us borrow it for whatever. And I was like, cool. And I'm going to take you and we're going to go shoot. And you're going to like learn this stuff.
Like no exceptions.
Yeah. And luckily her husband, after seeing him handle it. He actually kind of knew what he was doing. Not, I don't want to say he knew what he's doing, but he wasn't like unfamiliar with it. And then he was like, "Yeah, I've been shooting a couple times with my dad." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well that's a little bit better." He knew, like he pulled the mag out and looked and checked it, and I was like, he didn't say anything, he just did it, and I was like, "You've shot before?" Like, wait a second, I know that.
you know something.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was just like that, but. You know, again, going back to the bug out thing, it's gonna happen so fast. Everything's gonna be reactionary. If you're not prepared right now, like if you don't have stuff packed, you may not be able to make it out. I wouldn't. My town, where I'm at, is heavily populated. And we're backed up against a bad area near Atlanta. It's not a long drive for them to get to you.
Right.
And the city's gonna fall.
You gotta think like if the car's running out of gas quickly. Like, there's only so far that you can get away from like the big cities.
Yeah,
people are gonna have to start walking, and then you got like some time.
Yeah, but for me, there was no time because I saw the riots happening downtown, and then in your head, you're thinking about it. You go to sleep that night, and I woke up and they were in my town.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't have.
Dude, what I'm scared about is like being on shift.
I think about that all the time.
On the box.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you got to transport down to Atlanta. And I'm like,
yeah.
Like, that's my biggest fear is like, okay, how am I going to like get out from there?
Yeah.
Like in the middle of all of it.
Yeah. And you're a target.
Yeah.
It's not like you're a normal guy. In a normal car, you can gray man it and chill and just be ready.
Yeah.
Like when people see flashing lights, they're like moths to flames. It's like, I've got some crazy videos on my phone. Crazy videos that my brother took of the when they were destroying the CNN Center.
Yeah,
it's mind blowing.
Yeah, like it's creepy because like it's like a possibility now.
Yeah,
but
technically bugging in is the right answer, according to like everybody that said anything about anything. Bugging is the right answer. There's a guy.
I was gonna say I like John Lovell's video from Warrior Poet Society.
Yeah.
And he like grabs like his backpack and he's got like the helmet on with like unstrapped and he's like holding like a tomahawk or something. Yeah. And the wife's like, "Well, where's my bag? Where's the kid's bag?" Yeah. So he's like, "We're not bugging out.
Yeah.
We're bugging in." It's just like all like defeated and depressed. Like I love it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like it's such a valid point. It's like, oh, the one guy's got all the stuff, and then well, what about like the family? And like, you gotta like if you're gonna do it, like you gotta like think about everyone.
Every bag I built too. You know, and then my kids. It'd be tough.
Now you got kids and you got a baby.
It'd be tough. I've got there's a company called High Speed Daddy. They make tactical baby gear and stuff.
Really?
Yes, you need to check them out. They're actually really awesome. Okay. There's a company called Tactical Baby Gear, but that's not they make good stuff. But the company I work with is called High Speed Daddy, and we keep their bags very well stocked. So we've got these big, giant tactical bags that are our diaper bags. They got built-in changing tables. They've got it's awesome. They're awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, and you actually so we keep them full. They've got extra food in there that like doesn't need to be refrigerated or whatever. We just have like all the snacks, all the diapers. It's got a built-in wipes container thing, so you just unzip the top and you can pull the wipes out.
How much does like something like that run?
I don't want to. They're not terrible.
Okay.
But they're on par with a I hate saying this but like I get a lot of that stuff for free. So like we did media for them.
Yeah.
You know, so
hey, perks of the job.
I didn't buy really any of it. But I did buy one for a friend of mine. Like we all pitched in. I was like, you need to get this bag when he became a dad. And I can't remember what we paid for it. I want to say it was like $140.
Okay.
So on par with a tactical bag. It's got Molly on it. They've got attachments for like dump pouches.
Fully loaded, or do you have to do that?
No,
with all the supplies in it.
No.
It's just the bag.
It's just the bag,
okay.
But the bag has the features like the
Right.
the changing table, the built-in wipes container, all that type of stuff. So we load it up. Plus, it'd be hard to do that because you got to like different size kids, different diapers,
right.
So we keep that thing loaded, and when we go out, and if we have to change a diaper, we get back and I resupply it.
Okay.
So if we did have to go like grab that bag. Yeah, we go to 3 or 4 day cabin trips, and I just grab the bag. Check and make sure that some things are in there or not. But I was thinking about recently, like what you would do, because it's like the Bible says, like woe. It says woe to those who are with children in those days, because it's going to be, apocalyptic. How do you hide with a crying baby? How do you, if you've got babies that are alive, you've got supplies.
Yeah.
It's gonna be wild. But there's a guy in Bosnia. He survived the Bosnian Civil War in 1996, and he wrote a very short book. It's almost a pamphlet, probably longer than that. But I wish it was like full-size book. But he survived it. Basically, enemy forces surrounding, full-on, not even martial law. It's like it's self-contained area in an urban environment in the 90s, and you can't go out in the woods because snipers will just shoot you. And so he talks about what the do and do nots of urban survival inside of, probably, Bosnia, probably a less built society than we are here. And he talks about all the guys like, they would go out with their big backpacks, shot dead immediately. You wouldn't even know. You're just going to get sniped. Somebody's going to come steal your bag, and your body's going to be in the street. So he talks about trading. Talks about setting up guard shifts. He talks about when you do trade, bring only what you wanted to trade, and plus a little bit more. So if they do decide to rob you, they get a little bonus and leave you. He said Bic cigarette lighters were gold, like absolute gold. Yeah. So if you were trading for one of that for some food, bring 2 with you if you've got it. And then that way, if they decide to hold you at gunpoint, like if you say, 1 Bic lighter and you only show up with that, they're like, he's got a stash somewhere else, So it like little things like that,
Yeah.
Like times to travel, what clothes to wear, Don't wear any like nice stuff.
Yeah.
You want to look like
the gray man.
Nobody's robbing, well, I'd say nobody's robbing homeless people, but they're not like a primary target. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, it's a really interesting read.
Okay.
I'll have to send you the link.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was pretty eye-opening.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we're over an hour.
Are we really?
Yeah.
Jeez,
it like goes so fast.
It does.
Like, I could see why like Joe Rogan has like the 3-hour podcast. It's like sometimes like you just like get into it and it goes by, and I have to like cut it off at an hour because it's like most people are like 30 to 45 minutes, but dude, I've enjoyed having you on.
Yeah,
it's been great. I loved everything so far. So I'd kind of do like a little like advice thing at the end.
Yeah.
Any advice for the listeners? Dad advice, firefighter, bug out, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to the classic. You are your own first responder. Get medical training. The first step of gun ownership isn't buying a gun. First off, it's being physically fit. Second off, it's knowing medical and how to use medical. And your third one is training and owning a firearm. But go out, get training, get medical training. Hit up David Miller with Frontline Medical Defense. Get a Stop the Bleed course in. We're releasing our own IFAKs. Shoot, man, they might be in production within 2 months. Get trained. You're your own first responder. Don't pay the government to protect you.
Yep.
Basically it.
Yeah, and if you're just to kind of jump on that real quick, if guns are important to you, Second Amendment is important to you, definitely hop on fpc.org, Firearms Coalition, and contact your representative. Thank you for listening to this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please follow us on your favorite podcast app, hit that bell for notifications on new episodes, and please share with a friend. Thank you for all the support so far. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.